Good evening and welcome. Tonight we are going to finish this book. Oof, that was heavy. The Countries of the World. This has been my every country, facts about every country in the world, and we're wrapping it up with Australia and Oceania. And we're also going to look at the Arctic and Antarctic as well. So let's just dive right in. We're of course starting off with Australia. Let's see. Oh, we read this part first, don't we? Australia is the biggest island on Earth. That's a little contentious in terms of geography. Geography nerds might combat that, say it's a continent, but anyway. Situated in the southern hemisphere, it is the largest nation in Oceania and the world's sixth largest country. Much of Australia is desert, so people live in coastal towns and cities. The hot, dry areas in the interior are known as the outback. Some little fast facts here. Geography. The central desert region is edged by grasslands, rainforests, mountains, and beaches. History. The indigenous Australian Aboriginals were the first people to arrive and settle in Australia more than 50,000 years ago. Culture. Australians enjoy adventures in the great outdoors and the water and are a great sporting nation. Natural wonders. The dramatic landscape ranges from the Great Barrier Reef to the Great Dividing Range. Wildlife. Marsupials, or animals that raise their young in pouches, such as kangaroos and koalas, are unique to Australia. Food and drink. Australian food is as multicultural as its people, with a mix of local, Asian, and Mediterranean dishes. Let's look at all these facts over here. First we have flying doctors. Medics take to the skies in light aircraft to provide emergency care to people living in remote regions of the outback. The paradise for beachgoers. Millions of surfers flock to the Gold Coast and Sunshine Coast in the east to ride the waves. A road train. Long trucks called road trains haul supplies vast distances across Australia. Some measure more than 164 feet long. Sacred Rock. At the heart of Australia, near the remote town of Alice Springs, lies Uluru, an ancient sandstone rock sacred to the Aboriginal people. During sunrise and sunset, the sunlight gives it a reddish glow. Indigenous art. For centuries, Aboriginal artists have painted elements from their sacred tales called Dreamtime stories. The artist June Smith stands in front of her work, Flowers After the Rain. I like that. Oh gosh, there is a snake down here. It is Australia, so I'll do the snake one last. Don't worry. The Great Barrier Reef. The world's largest coral reef lies in the Coral Sea off Australia's northeastern coast. More than 1,500 species of fish are found in its waters. The Bouncing Roos. Australia is home to millions of kangaroos. Their powerful legs help them leap up to 30 feet in a single hop and reach a top speed of 44 miles per hour. Eucalyptus forests. Eucalyptus is my favorite smell in the world. About 3/4 of Australia's forests are made up of eucalyptuses, tough trees able to survive the hot, dry Australian summers. The Sydney Opera House. One of Australia's most famous buildings is the Opera House at Sydney Harbour. Concerts and shows have been staged here since it opened in 1973. Here comes the snake. Get ready. Bam. The venomous snakes. 3 species of taipan, including this inland taipan, are native to Australia. They are highly venomous. Alright, and snake is gone as we move on to the next country, Papua New Guinea. Papua New Guinea is a collection of 600 tropical islands. Most people live in rural villages, many of which have their own distinct ways of life. Starting with this staple crop, taro or taro. depending on where you're from, I think, is a starchy root vegetable eaten in many Papua New Guinea dishes. It has been cultivated on the islands for thousands of years. Flamboyant feathers. The eye-catching Rajiana bird of paradise is found widely in the nation's rainforests. It appears on the country's national flag. You can see right up there. The tree kangaroo. Deep in Papua New Guinea's rainforests live tree kangaroos. These skilled climbers spend most of their time on trees, eating leaves and fruit. Mud masks. To scare away enemies, the tradition of the Asaro people of the Eastern Highlands is to wear monster masks made of clay. And sacred architecture. The National Parliament building in Port Moresby is built in the style of a house tamboran, a traditional sacred meeting house. And next is New Zealand. Carefully put this down there. 2 islands in the Pacific Ocean make up New Zealand. Its landscape is a mix of stunning coastline, active volcanoes, and fertile farmland. There are 30 million sheep here, which far outnumber the people. Let's see, let's start up here with the dairy farming. New Zealand is one of the world's biggest dairy producers. Millions of cows graze in pastures across the country. Beloved bird. Native to New Zealand, the flightless kiwi bird is the unofficial national symbol. Extreme sports. Thrill seekers can enjoy a variety of extreme sports in the great outdoors. These include skydiving, whitewater rafting, and bungee jumping. Maori carvings. The Maori are Polynesian settlers who first arrived in New Zealand in the 14th century. Their carvings are treasured artifacts. Here's Milford Sound. Mountains and rainforests surround this fjord, which is a deep-sea inlet, in South Island. Dolphins and seals swim in its waters. And here's the New Zealand All Blacks doing their haka. The country's national sport is rugby. The national team, known as the All Blacks, has won the Rugby Union World Cup 3 times. You know, in fact, the New Zealand's national basketball team are called the Tall Blacks. That's very clever. All right, we are moving on to every tiny little island in Oceania. Doesn't go into too much detail about them, but we will read them all nonetheless. Starting with Palau. Palau is a nation of more than 300 islands in the western Pacific Ocean. Many Palauans make a living from tourism, agriculture, or fishing. It says here, built in 1890, Airai Bai is a traditional Palauan men's meeting house. The Federated States of Micronesia. The 600 islands of this tropical country fall into 2 types, forested volcanic islands and coral atolls. Many Micronesians make a living from fishing, and spicy peppercorns are grown in the island of Pohnpei. The Marshall Islands. Just north of the equator in the Pacific Ocean, this chain of coral atolls and more than 1,000 islets teems with marine life. And copra, or dried coconut kernel, and coconut oil are exported by the islands. Nauru, my favorite. This rocky island nation has to import most of its food, water, and other goods from abroad. And this is Nauruan Ite Detinamo, is an international medal-winning weightlifter. The Solomon Islands. Most people in the lush tropical Solomon Islands live in rural villages. Like many other South Pacific nations, this country has many volcanoes and often experiences earthquakes and cyclones. The Solomon Island bands play traditional music on bamboo instruments. Really cool. Tuvalu. Tuvalu is made up of 9 tiny Pacific islands. Around half of the population lives in Funafuti, where the government is based. And white terns inhabit the Tuvalu Islands. Kiribati, and yes, it's pronounced Kiribati. The 33 islands of Kiribati are low-lying, making them at risk of floods due to rising sea levels caused by climate change. The lava pieces of cloth wrapped around the waist like a sarong are worn on Kiribati and other South Pacific islands. Samoa. While most Samoans are farmers, tourism is a growing industry as vacationers are drawn to the island's white sand beaches. And this is a fautasi, a Samoan longboat. Vanuatu. The 80 small islands of Vanuatu are largely mountainous and covered by rainforests. The islands have 9 active volcanoes. This is Vanuatu's Mount Yasur volcano. It's 1,184 feet tall. Fiji. There are more than 300 islands in Fiji. Tourism and sugar are the nation's major industries. Most of the population lives on the 2 main islands, Viti Levu and Vanua Levu. And rugby is a popular sport in Fiji. Tonga. This nation of 170 mostly uninhabited islands is a monarchy. Its main crops include bananas, squash, and vanilla beans. And this is a hook used to hang food to keep it away from rats. Next we are going to Antarctica. Antarctica is the coldest, driest, and windiest continent on Earth. This vast frozen landmass contains 90% of the world's ice. It is surrounded by the Southern Ocean. The official flag. Antarctica is governed by many countries under the Antarctica Treaty System. Member countries agreed on a flag in 2002, which features the continent's map in white. This is the blue background represents neutrality. I like that. The Amundsen Scott Station. This U.S. base at the South Pole is one of many permanent scientific research stations on the continent. In the summer, there are up to 4,000 researchers in Antarctica. Speaking of, first to the pole. In a grueling race to be the first person ever to reach the South Pole in 1911, Norwegian explorer Roald Amundsen beat British explorer Robert F. Scott. Mount Erebus. This is the world's southernmost active volcano. It stands 12,448 feet above sea level and has a boiling lava lake at the top. Yes, there is boiling lava in Antarctica. The penguin colony. So cute. I love penguins. About 500,000 emperor penguins, the biggest and tallest species of penguin, live in Antarctica. They gather in huge colonies to breed and raise chicks and walk long distances across the ice to feed from the sea. And lastly, we have the Arctic. The northernmost regions of North America, Russia, and Europe lie within the Arctic Circle. Cold, treeless tundra covered the land, while the icy Arctic Ocean has the North Pole in its center. First, here's the Arctic terns. These birds have the longest migration of any animal in the world. Every year, they fly about 50,000 miles from the Arctic to Antarctica and back. The Northern Lights Cathedral. This spiral-topped cathedral in the town of Alta, Norway, takes its name from the lights in the sky that can be seen in the far north. Polar bears. Bears are so sweet, even though polar bears are very dangerous. Polar bears, the largest creatures in the Arctic, spend most of their lives on sea ice. Melting ice, due to a rise in global temperatures, is shrinking their habitat. A polar bear fact for you. Sounding a bit like Dwight Schrute, but polar bears are the most dangerous bears because they eat anything that isn't white. So be warned if you're in the Arctic. Hardy plants. Lichen, moss, and other tough plants, such as these Arctic poppies, thrive in the light, short Arctic summer when the sun does not set. The Yupik people. The Arctic is home to many indigenous people, such as the Yupik of Siberia and Alaska, who travel on snowshoes and use animal furs as type of whale, narwhals are recognized by their up to 10-foot long single tusks. They swim in Arctic waters all year round and can reach depths of 1 mile. And here's the global seed vault. To safeguard against any food crops becoming extinct, a vault inside a mountain in the Svalbard Islands of Norway contains millions of seeds from different crops. The vault is preserved by permafrost and rock. And that is the end of our book. We have read facts about every single country, and I've already done a video on the back of this book which has every territory. I did a tablet video for that one. So I put this in a big playlist. You can check out all the videos and all the countries in the world. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you found this video relaxing and educational. And I hope that you have a very good night.